You're listening to Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official podcast of Lingerie Fighting Championships. And now, here's your host, Michael Larkin.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official LFC Lingerie Fighting Championships podcast. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me today is a fighter, a very talented one at that, and someone who has such an amazing background and is such an amazing spirit that it shines through with everything that she does, the one and only Miss Mikayla Thompson. Mikayla, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. First and foremost, folks, the great thing about this show is really exuding and accentuating that internal and external beauty, that beauty, strength, and dominance. And for you, we see a lot of prospects, we've seen a lot of personnel, we've seen a lot of fans and everything involved in this show. But you have a very interesting story of how you found out about LFC because you were there the day of LFC 37 back to the mansion back on Valentine's Day. So let's talk about this here. So you saw what was going on, and what did you think about the presentation?
So basically, I'm an entertainer as well, and I had gone in to do an audition for the club at Sapphire. But my background, I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I was about 13 years old, and I've been doing boxing and MMA since I was 13 years old. So generally, when I walk into a strip club and I see a gentleman's club, and I see women kind of boxing it out, I'm like, all right, what's going on here? Because this looks fun. And so I was snooping around a little bit. Um, Went to go I don't remember who I had spoke to, but he gave me a little bit of rundown of what LFC was, and I was very intrigued by it, that's for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, first and foremost, here's why I love it, folks, because I'm going to say right now, there's nothing like a live experience of seeing it right there firsthand in person than opposed to highlights and clips, what have you. And I think for this particular situation here, I've always said this about LFC. We got a little bit of MMA, a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of clothing. It's that sex appeal kind of equated to what we had with the LFL, the Lingerie Football League, but it also really kind of has like that glow aspect, right? Yeah, roll up that one.
I love it. Personally, I like women as well too. I am very attracted to women as well. So when I walked in and I saw like big booty, big beautiful women going and sparring it out, I was like, okay, I can get down with this. But I agree with the football championship as well. I love those women. I follow them. I see what they're doing, and I absolutely love it. And I think that where many of this was like very sexualized in the way of being disrespectful to women, it's changed into being very empowering to women. And I really love that. I love that about both of these is that yeah, it can be sexualized, but we are sexual beings, but we have power in that. It's not just a negative thing. It's not a negative connotation. It can be a very positive thing for us because it's who we are. And we just taking advantage of what we have.
Right. And here's what I love about that comparison too. I always equate this like people talk about the attitude era with the WWE, like the late 90s had that very risque attitude era. And with women there, more focused on like bra and panties and stuff like that. Now more WWE is really accentuating the beauty, yes, that they are, but here we got some skill and we get to apply our crafts. I like that mindset too as well. But we're in such a society where it's like, okay, we got to tone down the sexuality. It's like, hold on here now. This is what makes us who we are, unique. Sex sells, as it always says. So it's almost kind of like we're trying to break away from that, but there's still something that you can accentuate and really have that focal point about it because there's layers to everything that we do.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, one of my other jobs, I'm a steel worker, and I'm one of the very few women that works in steel. I do rigging, so I build music festivals for concerts, and or build stages for music festivals and concerts, and it's steel work. So I'm actively working with steel. I'm climbing in heights. I'm doing all this stuff. But generally, the first thing that a man is going to look at, oh, she's got a nice ass. Oh, she's beautiful. This and that. So that's going to be the first thing that they're looking at. But instead of being upset about it and almost offended by it, I accept it because I know that that's what, okay, that draws you in, right? Well, then you see my beauty and that's what draws you in. But then you see me working hard and you see me lifting this steel and you see me climbing these 80-foot structures. And then it's like a switch, you're like, oh, but she's beautiful, but she's a hard worker. She really does it. And I feel like that's the same for these women. It's like, oh, she's beautiful, and that's what draws your attention. But at the same time, oh, she kicks ass. You know what I mean? So I love that.
I think it's nowadays, like you talk about the empowerment thing. I always say this, not just doing the training and putting the fitness and putting that work into being that athlete. Body confidence is such a huge thing nowadays. You know what I'm saying? You have to have that body confidence to show it off. If you got it, flaunt it, as they say. But also at the same time, too, if you can look at yourself in that mirror, if you have that ability to entertain and have that gravitational pull, so to speak, it really gets to accentuate you as a person, makes you stronger, makes you grow, and it really puts yourself out there. And that's what we need nowadays.
Yeah, I say it all the time. I actually am working actively as a personal trainer, and I work out of Roanoke. I'm training women for boxing as well. I have a number of programs that I'm doing out here, and I say it all the time that, growing up, I was insecure about being too skinny. There's girls that feel insecure about being too big, and there's girls that feel insecure about being too skinny, and there's girls that feel insecure about being too fit. Like, girls are going to have these insecurities. Women are going to have these insecurities. It's just about how you see yourself and how you want to see yourself. Instead of looking in the mirror and being like, oh, does he like this? Is he going to like this? No, do I like this? Where do I want to be? Because at the end of the day, me as a personal trainer, I can sit here and yell at you all day long about doing these workouts, but at the end of the day, it's going to be you that gets your ass up and then actually does the workout. And then you're going to look in the mirror and be like, I did that. I got my goals.
Right. I think that's the right mindset to have. And I think what I love about it too as well, wherever when you're working on yourself from that external standpoint as well as internally, it all starts with you. So having yourself start where you are, the journey is worth taking. We can say the destination is imperishable. We could talk about this all day. But I think if people don't start with you and how you continue to want to go, then what does that make? You know what I'm saying? You really need to find that place and that purpose. And I think a lot of us have done that. I think it's wonderful. And I think especially with today's generation, including yourself being the younger athlete that you are, it really does show, and also brings a lot of hope to the future, and it also brings a lot of progression and succession to you as a whole. So I mean, I think the sky's the limit, and the youth movement right now is just absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
oh no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
one of my favorite shirts that I wear, it says young and powerful.
I love that. Okay. All right. Now, well, that's also great as well. And I also got to add this to you. Speaking to this, you young go hard, 13 years old, MMA background. You're wrestling in high school. You're doing all these combative natures. Let's talk about this here because, again, such a young age, doing what you do and what you love to do. What kind of gravitated you towards MMA? And here, I'm going to wrestle in high school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. What kind of gravitated towards you there, Mikayla?
So I've kind of already been a tough kid. I was one of those that was like, I always fought with the boys. I always wrestled in the mud with the boys. A boy told me I shopped at Goodwill, I punched him in the face. I was always rough and tumble like that. So originally when I saw boxing, I was probably about 7 years old, and I was like, that's something that I want to do. But I never got into it. I didn't come from a very wealthy family, so it was kind of hard to get into programs like that, especially because they thought it was a joke for women to be in it. So you had to pay that extra money to be in it. But then a friend had started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I went to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu with him the first time, and we did armbar week. That was the first thing I ever did. Fell in love instantly. I started doing Jiu Jitsu competitions and realizing that I could use my smallness and because I used to always think that I'm a woman, but I can do anything a man can do. But then that reality hit me that scientifically, there's a lot of things that women can't do to the extent that we have to modify. There's modifications that we have to make in order to do what the men can do. I'm not saying that you can't do it. There's just a lot of other things that we have to do around that in order to get to that point. So as far as wrestling went, there were no girl wrestlers like that. I always wrestled the boys, always. So instead of trying to sit there and muscle out a man, I would focus and rely mostly on my technique. And technique was everything to the females. And I started seeing that through jujitsu, that I'm using this man's strength against him because, you're coming at me with everything that you got. But if you're going to be pushing into me, then I'm just going to let you go that way. You know what I mean? I'm going to let you go. If you want to go that way, go that way. I'm just going to help you out, give you a little hand. You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely a hard reality at first, but just to get to the point where I could understand that I'm not a man and I'm not going to be like a man, but I can use what I do have as an advantage. And it started to click a different perspective. Like, I don't want to fight like a man. I want to fight like a woman. You know what I'm saying? So that's definitely a big thing for me. But I was 15. I had my first MMA fight. I was 15. I fought a 24-year-old here in Roanoke, Virginia. I beat her in a third round TKO. She quit. And she was much taller than me, much taller. It was just that drive, that heart, all of that pushed me through it. And things happened. I turned. They said anybody under 18 could no longer fight. So I had to wait till I was 18. I ended up getting pregnant, went through life as a single mom, and my daughter's 5 now. So I'm finally jumping back into the cage. I'm finally jumping back into the ring. And hopefully by the end of this year, I'll go back and I'll be pro. But I got a few amateur fights throughout the summer that I got lined up. And then hopefully you guys will see me in Vegas this time next year. So that's the goal.
Well, I personally hope to see you in Vegas as well. And also as well, God bless 5 years old, doing a lot of, first of all, shout out to all the single moms out there, because it's not easy. It's a lot to go through. So shout out to the single moms. My goodness. First of all, family is everything to me. So I love that. My God bless you and your daughter. I look at it from a stance too as well, man. 15, knocking out this 24-year-old, and I look at it from a stance too. There's so much about there. Like we see in popular culture, you'll see on episodes where it's like there was an episode of Saved by the Bell back in the day, and I'll date myself here and show my age, but here we go. Like with Saved by the Bell, there was an episode where Zach dated a girl who was on the wrestling team, and then she defended him against a bully, and it's like, oh my God, this is a woman. You have that mindset, but also at the same time, I think what I love about it too is the tomboy aspect and the fact that not just women are getting into it. Like with wrestling, there's intergender wrestling, there's more guys on wrestling the girls. The equality standpoint is there. That empowering outfit there is just absolutely wonderful. And I think the fact that we're getting that shine on a lot of great women of different combative natures, because y'all are taking over, but also at the same time, y'all are kicking our butts and making us even worse twice as harder, you know?
It's definitely a different world, that's for sure. And I'm not even going to say it's just a woman empowered world, because I think as a whole we're empowered. I think that women just became more confident in who they were. I'm not going to say that it's fully. I don't want to take it away from the men as well. You know what I mean? Because I think equally we just became one. And like all the guys that I train with at the gym, I mean, there's all guys. And, my legs are bruised up. I got a swollen ankle because I was sitting there doing Muay Thai kicks with a man who's twice my size, and it's got big legs. But one thing that I really like that I see a lot these days is there's videos of a man and a woman sparring, right? This is a fighting atmosphere. Everybody signed up. Everybody knows that this is what they want to do. So there's nothing weird like that. But a girl goes in and she gets a good hit or a good kick and the guy's like stunned. Okay, well, then he throws something back and she's stunned. And then it's like, was that fair? Absolutely. Absolutely, that was fair. I can't come in like I put heat on the guys all the time when I'm sparring them. I have wicked body shots. I love throwing my body shots, my hooks, my uppercuts. I was a huge Mike Tyson fan growing up. So I'm a very Mike Tyson based fighter. So if I'm coming in and I'm just wailing on this guy with body shots and he's feeling it, what makes me think that I can't get hit back? It's unfair. I know that there's that difference between a man's strength and a woman's strength, but still, if I'm coming at you with everything I got and I'm like actively hitting you enough for you to be like, ow, that hurts, what makes me think that you can't hit me back and stun me a little bit? But it teaches you.
Right. And I think that's the thing. Everything's a learning experience. And as well, like you talk about Mike Tyson, the man from being prime Mike Tyson to Mikey Tyson, the legend that he is, such kick strikes are very much instinctual, animalistic, but also at the same time, it's that killer instinct. And I think you certainly do have that with, and we've seen your strikes and your kicks and your sparring and your gym time. You certainly put in the work. And I think also at the same time, I love it that you talk about your steel and you talk about what you're doing, working at that and building and the structure as well. I also love that too, because anything that we do in life, it's that variety. We get to add a lot of stuff to what we do. And it's just an extension of our overall being, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And the funny thing is before I was terrified of heights. You wouldn't catch me dead on the side of a cliff, even if there was a railing. And the first time I ever went up in a grid, I even clipped onto a catwalk, and it was only 45 feet up. But the funny thing is that that's considered a man's work, right? But what got me into it was dancing. Because if I can climb a 50-foot pole with nothing but my legs as a safety, and get all the way to the top just fine, What makes me think that I can't have a harness on, have a whole safety system, and then climb out onto some beams and pull up some points, some chains, And like it's just one of those things where I'm like, one thing, like I could sit here and be ashamed for what I did as a dancer, as being a dancer, because a lot of people don't like that. I did it because I was a single mom, and it was my best way to be able to spend time with my daughter and then still make my bills at the same time. I had the potential to make my rent in a day, and I could spend the rest of the month with my daughter, and not have to work my ass off day and night and, never be able to see her and just have enough money to pay for a babysitter and go to work all the time. It's not fair. You know what I mean? So that's what really pushed me into being a dancer. Yes, a lot of people can get caught up in that life and the toxicities of it, but it's whether or not you're strong enough to know what your goals are and what you're really going towards. Not the fancy purses, not the shoes, not all that, but putting a roof over you and your child's head. And that's what I really respect about Vegas, is that it's so normalized dancing out there that there's all kinds of mothers. And they're like, no, I'm not out here to just fuck around and do drugs and do this and that. I'm here because I'm putting a roof over my baby's head and food on their table. And this is the best way to do it and spend time with them as well, as much time as you can. And that's what I really respected about that. But the fact that it went from being a looked down upon woman's profession is what got me into being in a rigging position, which is more considered a man's position. It's funny to me, but it worked out just fine because a lot of women riggers that I know came from dancing. And it's because we like to climb. We know how to climb. And then on top of that, you have that insane upper body strength and core strength of having to do tricks and all that. It's not just about a sexualized thing and the money. Me personally, I am very theatrical. I love to put on a show. It doesn't have to be like there could be two people there and I'll do 20 songs on stage, and it's just because I'm in my atmosphere and I'm dancing, and I'm very much so more like a burlesque dancer. I love to be theatrical. I love to be fluent. It's not just about going up there and shaking your ass and having people throw a bunch of money on you. It's not just about that. And that's what people consider it being. So everyone looks down upon it, where I'm trying to bring light to the situation. Like, hey, it's not like that at all.
You got me smiling just thinking about that, because I'd love to add on to this point, because you put out a lot of great things here that I think need to be here at the forefront. First of all, I've seen a lot of people myself who have done that, who have done dancing as well to pay. Being a mom, I've seen a lot of it with a lot of female friends of mine back in the day, and still to this day. I look at it from a stance too as well. There's showmanship. There's the two E's I like to say, elegance and eloquence, that go into the performance. It's not just like you mentioned, just shaking your ass, watch yourself like it's mystical up in the club. It's everything that really encompasses just the art form, the technique, the overall showmanship that goes into it. And a lot of people don't see it from that particular lens. And I've always said this about it. It's like you mentioned, Vegas, it's combative nature, but the stigma and what a lot of people symbolize with Las Vegas, it's drugs. We're out there, we're gambling, woo. It's not all about that. People need to understand that there's discipline that goes into everything that you do, and especially from the dancing's point of view.
Yeah. And I mean, just meeting some of the locals out there, you realize that really the people who come to visit, they're the problem. You know what I'm saying? Because they're coming for drugs, gambling, and strip clubs.
Right.
And that's generally what they go to Vegas for. There's not really much else that you go to Vegas for, unless you have a good head on your shoulders and you're like, I want to go to Vegas to make money. And you can make a lot of money. I mean, you can make money being an Uber driver there. It's just that you got to have the right mindset. But if you have the mindset that I'm just going to go and gamble all my money away, or you have an addictive personality, then that's not the place for you. You know what I mean? But if you're good at keeping the head on your shoulders and you know what your goals are and you have those in mind, then you do great. And it's not nearly as bad as everyone says it is, because the local side of it is they're so on it. They're like, this is my job. This is what I do. I get it done. I live in a good house. My kids live in a good house. They're fed. They go to a nice school. All that. It's not nearly what people perceive it as. And it's the same with dancing, not nearly what people perceive it as. Maybe back in the day, it used to be more of a crack whore situation because it was introduced, but it doesn't have to be that way. You see those girls that like to dress up and they have the cosplay, right? and they'll do the elf ears or whatever. It's because it's not just for the appeal of a man. It's because they are performing and they feel that they get to be somebody else. If I can, I say it all the time. This is the day and age. If you wanted to identify as a purple transgender T-Rex, you really could identify as that, because nothing is impossible these days. You know what I mean? So, like, take it and run with it. If you want to one day go to the club and be a cowgirl, you can be a cowgirl. The next day you want to go to the club and you want to be a character from Star Wars, you could do that. It doesn't have to be about a sexualizing thing to appeal to not just men, women as well, because, you know, this is the all society, you know what I'm saying? To anybody. It's about being able to have that moment where you don't have to just be yourself, but you can branch out and become something and just perform, you know. And I honestly, I feel the same about fighting. And what I really like about the LFC is that it's got that WWE vibe, but these women, they get that like tough stance, and they're tough about everything, right? But then you see them walk out, and it's a blonde hair, blue-eyed, big titty, big booty, beautiful woman, but then she's ready to you know, start some shit, and I love it, because that's what these women's like. They're tough. I love watching the football women, because they're just beautiful women. They work out every day of their lives, and then they go and walk out of the crowd, grab a beer, fucking chug a beer, and then smash it on their helmet. I'm like, who does not like that? Because I know she is enjoying every minute of that, and it's not just for the appeal of everyone around her. It's because that's who she is. Just because she's a tough tomboy woman doesn't mean that she's gay either. Sometimes women are just tough and rumble like that. You know, we just like to do that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, you're this, well, then you should act this way. Or, you know, you're too tough and you're clearly a dyke, or you're clearly gay. You know, people try and put all these stereotypes with different personalities, and it's not fair, because sometimes people just want to be themselves. You know, one minute I'm sitting here Muay Thai kicking with my coach, and then the next minute I'm going out in a skin tight little mini dress with my hair and makeup done and going out and dancing. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. It's just, we have so many open personalities these days.
I think that goes into everything. And I think what I love about it too is, as well, people really need to be more open-minded and expand their horizons. And I say that today in day and age, because again, we talk about, it doesn't matter with your male, female, trans, what have you. I think everybody that goes into what they want to do and to pursue, I think is awesome. And especially with LFC, we'll equate it to this with WWE, like you mentioned, is great storytelling, because what we're doing is we're applying our crafts, we're telling a damn good story in the process. And also at the same time, a lot of the talents that you see in LFC have either been in WWE and many different wrestling promotions, independent wrestling, what have you. So a lot of them have that background. They have backgrounds in modeling. Some may have done adult modeling, but also at the same time, it's them showing up and showing out. And I think that's what makes the great performance of Lingerie Fighting Championships. And I also look at the LFL, like a lot of people don't even realize that, because some people look down on the LFL. Like a woman by the name of Danielle Monet, who was in the LFL, went on to be Summer Rae in the WWE. So there's a WWE alumni who is in the LFL. Ty Emery, who's doing her thing now with bare knuckle fighting and is an LFC prospect. She was in the LFL. Lauren the Animal Fogel, who's an LFC, was in the LFL. So we have so many different things that coincide, and especially with Invicta, Shannon Knapp's promotion, there's so many great things out there, from promotions to MMA wrestling. Like, Combative Nature is just such at an influx of just hotness and peakness right now.
I mean, another example would be, well, one of my huge inspirations would be Ronda Rousey.
Ooh, yes.
She was just a kick-ass woman and paved the path for all of us. I really do believe, in a huge way. But when she switched to WWE, people hated it. Oh, how does she go from real fighting to fake fighting? Well, she was able to bring out that feminine side of her, you know, and be able to branch out and be like, okay, well, yeah, I can kick ass and I'm a fighter, and you know, she can fight for real. Then to be like, oh, well, I can also pretend sometimes, because sometimes it's fun to just pretend. I mean, ever since little girls, we want to pretend sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things where it has you don't want to always have to be serious all the time, and we feel like we have to prove ourselves constantly, and it's not really fair. Why do we have to prove ourselves constantly to be worthy of what you think that we're not worthy of, you know? And that's why I've always been a huge fan of Ronda Rousey, and no matter what her decisions have been as far as going from MMA to WWE, it's a huge thing for her. You know, going from being like this hardcore woman that people feared, and I mean still feared to this day, honestly, to being this woman who is like, okay, well, I get to pretend a little bit. Sometimes that feels good, you know, just to have that like acting aspect, that theatrical aspect of it.
Oh, beautifully said. And I mean, I look at it from a stance too as well. When Ronda Rousey made the jump, like you mentioned, someone even said, like, oh, she's going to WWE, her career's going to die. And it's like, no, number one. And number two, when she came in at the Royal Rumble in 2018, and then she had that big WrestleMania match, she's teaming with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, a very much a high profile matchup at that event. And then she's gone on to win the women's championship. She's now teaming with Shayna Baszler, who's a member of that 4 MMA horsewomen. Like, she's still hitting on all cylinders. She's the heel. She's that badass Ronda Rousey that we know. And I think for me, it was also kind of like a hand in glove because with the name Rowdy, it's derived from the Roddy Piper, God rest his soul. So you saw a lot of that influx. It's like, God dang it, man, she was destined to be here.
Yeah. And people looked down on her so badly for no reason. Like, you know, who's to say that that's not originally where she wanted to be, and she just happened to be really good at kicking motherfuckers' asses. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. And
it just
right. And we've always debunked that whole thing because I look at it from this perspective. So when Ken Shamrock, who was a UFC Hall of Famer, came into the WWE in 97, 98, Tank Abbott did WCW. We've seen Randy Couture. We've seen Brock Lesnar go there, CM Punk. And people will say what they want about Punk, but you got to give him credit for going in there. There's so many influxes of MMA and pro wrestling nowadays, like that debunked argument of just like, oh God, what are they doing? What is this? And everybody being like that, it just goes away because of how similar like we are now seeing both worlds combining and really coming together as one.
it used to be one of those things that when it came to the fighting and it came to MMA, it came to boxing, that the women that were fighting and that they were boxing, oh, she looks like a man. Oh, she's too manly. Oh, she's ugly. You know, type of thing like that. I mean, for instance, like the bare knuckle fighting championship. You know, I I have wanted to do bare knuckle fighting since before it was even legal. Just something about it. I wanted to bare knuckle fight. I can't explain what it was. That just it felt like it was something that I wanted to do. So when they finally brought it out, but not only did they bring it out, but there's also beautiful women doing it. It's not just about, oh, this woman looks like a man, or oh, this woman's built like a man, or whatever. It's about, oh, she can kick ass, but damn, she's beautiful as well. You know, so it definitely like changed that for us, and I really like that because, you know, I want to go to my weigh-in dressed to the nines, dressed to the tens, have my hair done up, makeup done up, you know, have a cute little dress on, whatever, because I still have that feminine aspect of me, right? So when you always have to play this hardcore mentality because you're in a man's sport, it can get a little bit exhausting because there's times that I just want to walk up in heels and be like, I'm still a badass bitch and I can still fight too.
And what I love about that too, as well, just to add on to the foreign being a badass bitch, boss that bitch, all wrapped in one here. I think what I like about you too, as well, and for those who have not followed Mikayla on Instagram, you definitely should because you are a great follow. I've seen a lot of the photos, very much beautiful imagery. You're in a dress, you're dolled up, you're looking good, so that also has that appeal. I got to put over the photos because, like I said, it's a lot of beautiful imagery on your Instagram.
Thank you.
You're very-
I think that that's I strive for that because people tell me all the time. My friends tell me, "Oh, you want to do modeling? You got to take that fighting stuff off your Instagram. Oh, you want to do fighting? You got to take that modeling stuff off your Instagram." You know, it's always like a back and forth thing. I'm like, why can't I be everything? Why can't I be a rigging bitch? Why can't I be a fighting bitch? And why can't I be a badass bitch that does, you know, great modeling? And why can't I be a dancer on top of that? Who's to stop me from doing all those things? Why can't I be that? Because all of that is me, right? You know, I may not always love the atmosphere of a club, but I love to dance. I love to do pole tricks. I love to do that stuff. I love to be theatrical. I love to wear my cowgirl outfits or, like my soldier outfits or do all that kind of crazy stuff because that's who I am. And then on top of that, I love to be a fighter. I love fighting. Fighting is part of my life. Fighting is a majority of my life. And then, I'm a mom on top of that. So why can't I be everything? Why does everyone have to sit there and be like, well, you do this. Well, you want to, like, there's so many modeling agencies that, and especially in Vegas, they look at my page, they're like, nah, because you don't put out that feminine aspect of it. But why do I have to be all feminine? Why does it have to be all sexy modeling pictures? And that's what I love about this generation now. Especially after COVID, there's so many women that have stepped up to be like, okay, yeah, I'm a fighter, but look, I got a nice ass too, and I can switch it up and be a dime in 2 seconds, and the other way around. Oh yeah, well, I'm a dime in 2 seconds. Like I'm pretty and I'm walking around like this little girly girl and giving off this little show, but then at the same time I can snap off and fight somebody. I can get into Muay Thai. I can throw these crazy kicks. I love that there's so many warrior women these days. It just inspires me. Every day I get on my social media, I see just warrior women. And not are they just warrior women, but they're all beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And they just take it all in. So why can't I be all of it? Why do I have to stereotype myself as one particular thing? You don't have to.
Right. And that's the thing too. Also, I think what I love is like you talk about the bodybuilding aspect, and this is where I equate to the point here. And people look at bodybuilding with women, and I mean, China, God rest her soul, was a big part of that women's wrestling movement with how she looked, and the ninth wonder of the world. My goodness. But woman that gets into bodybuilding, it's always the term mannish, which I hated because it's just like, no, it's just badass women that want to be strong and really be fit, be flexing. And I think it really shows that empowerment too as well. Like for you, I'm going to look at you right now. First and foremost, the external beauty shows. You got the piercings, you got the edginess, and it really is just another extension of you that really showcases. You know what I'm saying? I think that also helps too because a lot of people can be attracted to it, can gravitate towards it. If you're not evoking someone's emotions, no matter what emotion that it is, then you're not doing your job. And I think from a showmanship standpoint of what LFC is about, telling a story, being sexy, evoking emotions, you have to make people feel. And I think that goes with anything within life.
Right. No, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
And I think we also got to put this at the forefront here, man, because my God, we've talked about LFC a lot, you and I think you probably have one of the best mindsets about it that I love, each and every one of them, especially with how young you are, being the single mom and just being that powerful, heart-driven, very passionate-driven woman. I got to bring this up here because the L in Lingerie Fighting Championship stands for lingerie, folks. So I got to ask you from the fashionista standpoint, because the moment you go out of that curtain, here it is, everything from till the bell rings, what have you. It's your story, it's your entrance, it's your representation of your presentation, so to speak. So I got to ask you, Mikayla Thompson, what is some of your favorite lingerie? Because there's a lot of badass lingerie out there.
Oh boy, I love Honey Burdette. I'm a little bit of a bougie, expensive bitch, so I will have to say that I do love Honey Burdette. Me personally, I'm a little like, let me put it to you this way. I love fashion. I have over 80 pairs of heels alone, right? So you see me, and a lot of people see me as Makilla Gorilla. So then, like, if you saw my story yesterday, I went out for the first time in a long time. We went out to the bar, had a few drinks. The bar was dead. There was nobody there. But you best believe that I'm up in there with my colorful ass dress and my heels making a statement, because I don't care if I get dressed up and I go to Walmart. It's just the fact that I get to do it. That's it. Like I have that entrance, and my mom taught me about that as well. She always told me, when you enter a room, you're seen. You got your shoulders back, you have your head up, your posture, you have that confidence, and people see confidence. You know what I mean? Even if you fake it, as long as you show that confident, strong side of you, people respect you. Confidence is a huge respect. I'm not talking about cocky. I'm talking about confidence. Confidence in yourself as a woman, as a person. And you walk in a room and you have your chest held high and you're just Don't walk in a room with your head down. Even if you feel like, oh, this outfit was super cute, but then you go out and you're getting dirty looks. Who gives a fuck? Who cares what they think? You care what you think. If you think that you look the shit, you better raise your chest up, head up high, and you better walk in there like Beyonce in the freaking Super Bowl halftime show because you're owning it. And that's exactly how I feel about that. And I'm the same way even when I go rigging and I'm working steel, I'm wearing like an outfit that people don't generally see when you're rigging. I have a matching outfit that's still fashionable. I mean, shit, at my Country Thunder gigs, I wear bell bottom pants and a little shirt and my cowboy hat, my cowgirl hat, my boots. And it's not generally what you would wear doing steel work, but I'm fashionable, you know? And then when it's time to go up and rig and pull some stuff up, I tuck my little bell bottoms in my cowgirl boots. I climb that 80-foot tower and I get the shit done that it needs to be done. And that's just what it is. And the same with fighting. I was boxing all day today. I got a matching little two-piece outfit that most people look at like, oh, she's exposing too much or whatever. Like, but if you look at a bitch going to Planet Fitness looking like this, you're not going to say anything. But you see a bitch like me going to the boxing gym, oh, all of a sudden there's a problem, So I just like, I am definitely surrounded by fashion. Fashion is one of my biggest things. I do love it. And that's where the modeling comes in too, because I grew up very insecure about myself, very insecure in general. So, being behind camera, all of that. When I started doing some modeling stuff, taking pictures for photo shoots, it was just for fun. I'm not getting paid, nothing like that. But just to see that there was the beauty there and that it could be captured. You know what I mean? Just the fact that all this time I thought this way of myself, but in reality, this is who I am, this is how I look. It gives you that confidence. And I think that dancing did that as well for me because it's looked at as like I'm ashamed of it. I should be ashamed of it, but I'm not because it created me to be the strong woman that I am today. And I have that even sexual confidence. I have that confidence, whereas I wouldn't have had it before. I've worked in nude clubs in Miami. You know how hard that is for a woman to do?
Right.
To expose yourself like that? It's very difficult. But then you go from a time where you are feeling insecure and exposed to you're feeling a sense of empowerment. And you can take that how you want it. A lot of people think, oh, well, the men have control in this situation. At the end of the day, that's not the truth, because at the end of the day, they're looking at these women climbing this pole, doing this crazy ass trick. Like, I mean, Ariana Grande said it best. You think God is a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just look at us, jaws dropped. Like, how is she doing this? Because it is not about just shaking your ass and, showing off your body on stage. It's about that talent behind it. It's about that extra side of it. I don't know how to explain it. I'm very passionate about that. I know that we can be all of that. You don't have to be stereotyped as one thing just because of your decisions in life.
No, I think that's beautifully said. And I mean, you talk about earlier your share with Young and Powerful, and I'm going to add another one to that. It's not cockiness, it's confidence, because stuff like that, I think really Susan accentuates that. And I'm looking at you right now. First and foremost, you look fabulous. For those who've also not seen Mikayla, you've showed yourself on stories with, you're in a hot tub, you look good, you're very proud of your shape as you should be, because you're working hard to get where you are with your fights and everything. And I hope to see you continue to succeed. And you're very welcome. And I look at it from a stance too as well. That's the overall stance that people have in life. And I think we talk about that empowerment level. There's so many different ways, like you talk about, you're fashionist, you know what I'm saying? You're doing what you're doing with rigging and the steel side of things. I think if you're happy in your own skin and this is how you are, it just shows uniqueness and different levels to it. I think people need to just understand like the uniqueness that they have. You know what I'm saying? Because if we were all the same, the world would be dead ass boring, to put it in the most bluntest of terms. I think we
Absolutely.
Right. And we all need to have that uniqueness to it. And a lot of people don't like uniqueness or they don't like understand change. And I think we need a lot of that. And I think just by having this conversation and really manifesting this into the universe, it brings up front with that change.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, growing up, I always wanted to fit in with the popular girls. They wore Aeropostale, Abercrombie, American Eagle, all that. And my family couldn't afford that. So it was always hand-me-down. And by the time I did get those hand-me-downs, oh, we don't wear that anymore. So I was always behind. So all these like preppy girls that would just use me as a joke and pretend to be my friend that I tried to fit in with so much, those girls are messaging me to this day, asking me about booty workouts. Oh, how do you look so good? How did you get your body like that? You're so beautiful. You're so talented. I'm like, all those years that I just was down on myself and hated myself and had such a lack of confidence because I couldn't be like them and I couldn't have what they had and I didn't fit in with them. At the end of the day, they're so basic. I hate to say it that way, but they're fucking basic. And I to this day will never fit in with a crowd. And I am so perfectly fine with that.
All right, we're gonna put this here, folks. This is why I'm laughing, because Mikayla just brought up probably one of the best things ever. When you stay on your path and you go, what you're confident in your skin, you're very proud of who you are. You don't want to, fit in a crowd. You don't care. It's that no fucks given attitude, if you will. You just perfectly described that. Oh, now you want to talk to me type of vibes that do come out, because that's what it is. We've all been there.
With boys, man. It was like, oh, you don't want to hit me up. You don't want to say nothing to me for years. You don't want nothing to do with me. Oh, but the minute I post a picture and I'm looking fly as hell, you want to hit me up? No, honey. I'm not going to hit you back up. We're not going to go chill. We're not going to meet up. None of that. Like, because it's like one of those things where exactly, oh, like now you want to hit me up. Oh, now I'm doing good. You see, you want to, like, now I look good. You want to say something. No, like someone who sees the beauty from inside from the beginning, that's a different situation. But then all of a sudden something changes and then you want to hit somebody up, then you want to say something. No, that's not fair to that person. I worked so hard to have that mentality and to be confident in myself for somebody like you to come up and try and say something to me now. I'm not going to stoop to your level.
I think this is what I love about you too is, and I think both of us, and I'm going to say that I equate you to this, we both take pride in what we do and what we love. And I think the best part about it is I've always put this example. So when I do this show and I do all this pride, I take pride in what I do because I love giving people the platform to tell their stories. And I had a situation like this years after I graduated high school and I started getting into podcasting and I started interviewing amazing women like yourself and what have you. And they go, oh, and I've done a lot of wrestling stuff. They go, oh, Mike, so what do you think about this with wrestling and what you're doing over there? That's really cool. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. First of all, you were the kid that used to make fun of me for like professional wrestling and doing all this stuff, but now you want to talk to me. It's so interesting because it's like, okay, maybe they've grown up, but also at the same time, it's like, brother, I'm the same person that you saw in high school. I'm just elevating myself. I'm another extension of who I am.
Yeah. So I like that you say that because that reminds me. So I'm a nerd, so I can say this.
Yeah, same here.
And it's like one of those things where people who got so dragged for anime and all this other cosplay and all that other stuff, guess what's blowing up right now?
Anime and cosplay.
Damn cosplay, anime, all your little Marvel characters, Lord of the Rings. I grew up with all that stuff, Star Wars.
Yep.
And it used to be like, oh, you're a nerd. Oh, well, you look at this stuff and you're a nerd and nobody likes you. And, they would try to drag you for it. The same with wrestling. And like people would drag you for wrestling because it's not real. Right. But you try and flip somebody over your shoulder like that and not break their bones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's still a very real aspect of it. Very real aspect of it. It's just more theatrical. Right. That doesn't make it fake. It just makes it more of a theatrical thing where MMA is, we sign a little waiver saying that, hey, we're down to beat the shit out of each other. That's the difference.
Exactly.
Honestly. But you can still, even in MMA, you can still come with that theatrical aspect. One of my favorite fighters to this day was Fedor Emelianenko. Mm-hmm. Because Fedor would come out so peaceful, so together, so like you would look at that man and be like, he ain't gonna hurt a fly. But then you would see him fight and he's just throwing them. I mean, he is just tearing these people apart because he had that aspect. Same with Ronda Rousey. She had that mentality like, I'm going to be silent. And the silence is deadly. And people don't understand that. Where you sit there and you're talking shit and you're you're just talking shit and you're trying to start these things. Like, yes, it does sell, but at the same time, what you don't know, and that's what I love about, I used to be like, oh, I need to be hardcore, I need to be like rough, and I need to have this like mean face. But then I started to realize that if I come off like a girly girl, not necessarily, but like it's a more like ah
No, I get it. It's like a mixture of being eloquent and elegant, but also at the same time being a badass. So it's a nice
exactly,
balance,
exactly. But it's hitting you with the unexpected.
right?
um one of the girls that I was here training for her first fight, and it was she's an older lady, not too old, but um she just for a bucket list wanted to be in a fight, wanted to do it. She never really been hit in her life like that, just wanted to do it. Had that, like, lost a lot of weight. She did amazing. I'm so proud of her. And just all of a sudden she's like, a bucket list, I want to fight. So I came down to Roanoke to help to I was basically her sparring dummy man. So she just got to hit the shit out of me the entire time, which is fine because I started the same way. When you hit somebody, oh, I'm sorry. Well, they signed up for it, you know? So like she had to get past that, like being able to hit somebody and have that feeling instead of feeling like, oh, I hit them, I feel bad, because we signed up for it. You want to do that. So she had this fight and she did a great job. It was just a little exhibition bout, but it was just something to introduce her into that. But her picture, this is the best part. Her little picture that we took, she had the cutest little cupcake pose. Hands behind her back, smiling with her feet crossed, cute little cupcake pose. And of all the pictures that we took, I was like, that's the one. And she's like, why? It looks so dainty, so cute. I'm like, exactly.
That's the point.
That's
Yep.
exactly what I mean. That's the point. Is you sit here and you're looking dainty and cute, and then you get in the ring and you're just throwing fucking bombs, you know? And I like that element of surprise. I used to neglect that and think that I should just come off as a strong, like man-like woman because that's what they did. And then I realized it's that element of surprise that really gets them. And now there's so many beautiful women like that you're like, oh, what is she gonna do? She doesn't look like she would do anything. She doesn't look like she could hurt a fly. Exactly. And then she gets in the ring and you're like, whoa, she's throwing them. She knows what she's doing. She can fight. But it was an element of surprise. You weren't expecting that. And I would rather expect the unexpected than, be in a situation where it's like, oh, well, she's manly, she's like this, she's like that, because there's always going to be haters, always. But it's how you deal with your haters. Are you going to talk shit to them and try to spout off on them, or are you going to invite them, be like, yeah, you're right, okay, well, I'm gonna switch it up now? You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's definitely my mindset. People tell me all the time, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then behind their backs, I'm like, shoot, I'm gonna go do it.
Yep.
And I go and do it. And then look, you sit there looking dumb because you had that thought in the back of your head thinking, oh, she can't do that. She's not gonna do that. She's not gonna be able to do this and that. And then I'm just like, all right, go ahead. You can think that you're right, but at the same time, I'm going and I'm doing it. And then you're the dumb one at that point. So
I think it's that negative connotation, negative mindset that drives us, just that one little subtle comment that really motivates us. And I've said this about everything, whatever your craft. If it's wrestling and you doubt it, take a bump. If it's MMA wrestling, do some sparring, what have you. I think whatever you do, don't have a negative mindset. Positivity breeds positivity, and negativity brings negativity. So positivity not only is the way to go, you really will see results. And I'm going to say this about you. Speaking of results, your results and your future is just so bright. You have such a great spark. I personally cannot wait to see what the future holds for you. And before we close this out, Miss Mikayla Thompson, we definitely will do a round two. I had such a blast talking with you tonight.
absolutely, you too. I appreciate it, man, because I got a lot to say. I literally got a lot to say about it. I got a strong heart, I got a strong mind, and generally I don't get to express it. And I just want the girls out there to understand that they can be anything. It doesn't matter how dainty you are. It doesn't matter where you start. Everybody's got to start somewhere. But if you have that heart and you truly have that fighter's mentality, you can take over the world.
Beautifully and eloquently said. And one other thing I got to ask you before I have you promote the social medias, we got to talk about this Mikayla the Gorilla, man. I love the Mikayla the Gorilla. I think it's a great nickname. It's like the Thrilla in Manila, the Thrilla in Fella. We'll be here all day. Can we talk about this Mikayla the Gorilla? I love the name and the overall thing behind it.
Absolutely. So originally I wanted to go by like Terrible Thompson, since Thompson is my last name.
Right.
But then just one day, I was with my jiu-jitsu crew. I was probably about 13, 14 years old. And they had just made dinner. And my coach is like, Mikayla Gorilla, come sit down and eat. And I kind of just, oh, shit.
It
I
fits.
like that. But they knew that Mikayla Gorilla was one of my favorite cartoons.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's where it derives from. I really liked Mikayla Gorilla, and I had talked about that. So then the fact that he just said Mikayla Gorilla, it threw me off my feet. And ever since that, at 14 years old, it's been Mikayla Gorilla. And it has stuck with me.
And I think it fits. And that's what I always love about, we'll equate this to LFC. If you have the right nickname, like Serena Honey Punch Kyle, like Bella Inc., like, Ariana Blaze, the term Blaze, there's so many names in LFC. If you have the right nickname, that is just an extension of you. And I think Mikayla Gorilla showcases not just your love of cartoons, but also that fastness, that fast pace, that technique, just that aggressive side, also badassery. So you have to have that right name that encompasses it. And I think it definitely suits and fits you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And now, before we close this out, man, because you are doing your thing on Instagram, and can we just promote where else you're at? I know you're doing Instagram, but you do TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. Promote the social media. So, the floor is yours.
Oh my goodness, my light turned off.
Take your time.
I am not a big social media person. I'm trying to get more into it.
I really just went through a custody thing with my kid, and my dancing was not supported. And where I was here thinking that I could normalize the dancing and be able to express myself through it and post videos, it ended up working negatively for me. Right. So for a long time, I was just off social media, and I stopped doing all of that. And it was kind of a hard thing because a lot of things are based off of social media these days. So it can be a very difficult thing to work with. And I'm kind of a tech tard. It's funny because I'm in production, and I know things that have to do with production, but when it comes to social media and trying to get on, like, I made a TikTok. It is probably the same as my Instagram, Mikayla Gorilla 99. But a lot of my stuff, it's so funny because I would post like the twerking videos and the dancing videos, and just something about sitting there and doing a choreography dance didn't sit right with me. I was like, I make my own dances. I've never done choreography dance before. It just kind of looked stupid to me. Not like going off on anybody else out there that does it. All the props to you, because I can't do it. But as far as like that, like I would post those videos and it wouldn't get any love, right? But then I would post videos, like my most viral video, I was in heels, and I made a compilation where I was in heels and I'm punching one of those bags, those that you see at the bar.
Yep.
And it yeah. So I made a compilation of that, and I'm in heels and a dress, and I'm punching this bag, and I'm hitting like 700, almost 800 in score, and it had over 200,000 views, which is more than I'm used to because, like I said, I'm not really like in with social media, so I don't really know how that goes. But yeah, so that was just funny to me, and it kind of just made me realize like where the people see me, and it wasn't a sexualized thing. It was the badass that I am. I just happen to be pretty as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, as far as my Instagram is Mikayla Gorilla 99. Or actually it's Mikayla_99. And then I have my TikTok as well as Mikayla Gorilla 99. And even as a dancer, I mean, I've met Shaquille O'Neal. I've met all kinds of famous people, and they don't know me as a dancer. They know me as a fighter. I walk in and I see him. He's, "What's up, Killer Gorilla?" Not like and it's funny because I kind of like I kept that within the dancing in a way of all my dance names had to do with Mortal Kombat. So either Sonya Blade, Katana, Jade, it's always, it had to do with the Mortal Kombat family because it was still showcasing my personality. My personality as a fighter. Oh, okay, so what makes you do Sonya Blade? Or if they're a nerd, I say my name's Sonya. They're like, oh, like Sonya Blade, Mortal Kombat. I'm like, yeah, you got it. You know what's up. So like, I love being able to be who I am, but then still be able to be something else as well.
I love that. I love that a lot. And I can't wait to see, like we talk about the future where you're going to be, but you have such an amazing mindset. And I think a lot of people will learn and obtain a lot of information from today's forum. And I have to say this, folks, if you want to check out the latest LFC event, it's LFC 37 Back to the Mansion on Valentine's Day, which Mikayla got to see a little something of it, like Maxwell. Check it out at lfcfights.com. Check out fights_LFC, LFC_fights, and LFC Fights on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, where you get a lot of great videos from LFC's reality series Exposed. A lot of amazing, beautiful photos and a lot of fun videos that really entertain and really perk one's interest. And definitely check out all the events, like we mentioned, lfcfights.com and LFC Network on Roku. We are on Roku. Download it. Watch this podcast. Watch the events. Watch so many great shows that are encompassed with the brand that is Lingerie Fighting Championships. And before we close this out, Mikayla Thompson, Mikayla Gorilla, do you have any final words, not just to your peeps, your fans, but to the LFC universe?
I would not mind getting a little suffocated by a fat ass, I will say that much. Because I definitely saw some interesting moves in there, and it was intriguing. And shout out to those girls, man, because they're just having a blast, and I know it. And there's some talented girls out there. They're all very beautiful, and I hope that they just keep doing the thing because I respect it 100%.
Beautifully said, eloquently said, and bluntly said. I felt like I was listening to Bubba Sparks and the Yin Yang Twins right there. Cali Park, Bubba Sparks, booty, 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 rocking everywhere. I like your style. But no, that's a lot of it. If you want to see some booty shaking, earthquaking, and just some badass maneuvers, that is Lingerie Fighting Championships for you. And as I always say with the show, life is an art form, and we are all applying our crafts. And everyone continue to apply your craft in amazing fashion. And as the title of this show is, and also my mindset, beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. And Mikayla Thompson, Mikayla Gorilla, I include you in those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.